Hello guys, so welcome to another episode of my lecture, and on today's episode we will be talking about the liabilities for the act of the company. Three things: liability for the act of the company. Central to this is the act. Do you understand? We know what the company is, we know what liability means, but whose acts will be termed to be the act of the company, such that when there are liabilities, that particular liability will be the liability of the company? That's basically the question we're asking here. So we have Joseph, we have Tade, we have John. Joseph, Tade, and John. Joseph is gateman, Tade is director, John is managing director. When Joseph does an act that has not been authorized by the managing director or the director, can that act be said to be the act of the company? Where the managing director does an act that has not been authorized by the board or by the members in general meeting, can that act be said to be the act of the company? Even where the board expressly told the managing director not to do a particular act and he still did it, can that act that was not authorized be said to be the act of the company? Those are the questions that we need to ask. When we have a director that was not given power to do something and he did it, can that act be said to be the act of the company? We'll be interrogating these questions in line with the provisions of CAMA, which is what I'll be discussing in this video. But in my next series of video, we are going to be discussing about 5 cases on liability of act of the company. 5 cases, very interesting cases. They will let you understand, they will give you insight on how company works, especially whose act would be termed the act of the company. So let us start with the CAMA. Most preferably section 89 of CAMA. What does section 89 of CAMA say? I would love to read from my notes because of the extra underpinnings I have regarding it. So section 89 of CAMA tells us that any act of the members in general meeting, meaning any resolution given by the members in general meeting, or any act of the board of directors, meaning any resolution as well by the board or the managing director, while carrying on in the usual way of business, shall be treated as the act of the company itself, and the company shall be criminally and civilly liable, therefore, to extent as if it were a natural person. I think this already explains to us. We have 3 principal people, like I said in my video: the board of directors, the members in general meeting, and the managing director. However, there is a proviso here. A says that a company shall not incur civil liability to any person if that person had actual knowledge at the time of the transaction in question that the member in general meeting or the board of directors or the managing director, as the case may be, had no power to act in that matter or had acted in an irregular manner, or if, having regard to his position with or relationship to the company, he ought to have known of the absence of such power or presence of irregularity. Now, there are 2 legs to this. The first leg is the fact that you have what is known as the actual knowledge. You have been told that either the managing director did not have the power to do this or the board of directors did not have the power to do this. You were told. And regardless of the fact that you were told, you still went ahead with it. Then that basically means that any liability incurred will not be the liability of the company because you had actual knowledge. Now, if you read the provisions of section 89, especially the proviso, it says a company shall not incur civil liability. A company shall not incur liability where the person had actual knowledge. That is the first thing. Now, the second thing is where the person should have known, because of the position the person holds in the company or because of the relationship the person had with the company. Now, when we are talking about the position, a shareholder is deemed to know that the board or the MD does not have the right to do certain things without probably a resolution coming from either the board or the members in general meeting. Do you understand what that means? It means that because of his position as the shareholder, he should have had knowledge of that. The same way when you are talking about your relationship to the company, a consistent person who buys things from the company or who deals with the company in a particular manner is deemed to know that where there is a change, then such change needs to be questioned. You have been dealing with Mr. A, that's the managing director, for quite a long time when it comes to buying and selling. All of a sudden, Mr. C, who is just a director, decided to want to sell something to you. And then you asked Mr. C, is it for the company? Mr. C said yes. You should have asked Mr. A what is going on, or at least you should have done background finding. Mr. A's company, what is going on here? Why is Mr. C coming to meet me? It hasn't been so before. But no, you took Mr. C's word for it, and now you are saying that the company should be liable. Because of your relationship to the company will not be civilly liable for that. That is exactly what is going on here. And when we read the provisions of section 89B, it tells us that if in fact the business is carried on by the company shall not escape liability for acts undertaken in connection with that business merely because the business in question wasn't among businesses authorized by the company's memorandum. This section deals with the ultra-virus provision, especially that in section 44.3, which states that no act of the company and no conveyance of property to or by a company shall be invalid due to the fact that such act or such conveyancing wasn't done or made in furtherance of any of the authorized business of the company, or that the company was otherwise exceeding its power. It should be noted that section 89B prevents a company from escaping liability due to the act of members in general meeting, board of directors, or managing directors done in the usual way of business, because what was done was not part of the business as authorized in its memorandum. This is very, very easy. We already know those people whose act we will call the act of the company. It is there in section 89, managing director, board of directors, and the members in general meeting. Now, these people, their act will not be the act of the company only on two grounds. The first one, where the person dealing with them has actual knowledge. The second one, where the person dealing with them has imputed knowledge. Note that constructive knowledge has been taken away by the CAMA. We are going to discuss that later. But right now, we are talking about actual and imputed knowledge. Imputed knowledge has not been taken away. So where, because of your position, it is deemed that the knowledge is imputed on you, or because of your relationship with, it is deemed that that knowledge as well is imputed on you. Now, when you now get to B will tell you that the only ground that we are giving for no liability on the company when these three people has acted is where you have actual and imputed knowledge. Where you are saying that what was carried out was not authorized by the company's memorandum, therefore the other party should have known, which is constructive knowledge. That's constructive notice, being that it is in the memorandum that you should have known. That would not make the company escape liability. Do you understand? The company will not escape liability because you are saying, oh, the business is not in the memorandum. No. Section 92 has taken away constructive notice from the CAMA. Therefore, it reinforces section 44.3 and reinforces section 89B. Do you understand that? So with this, I would like us to start interrogating our series of cases, starting with Leonard Carriage Company Limited versus Asiatic Petroleum Company. So I'll see you in my next lecture.